Well, it's actually snowing hella hard. Dang. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today, I'm going to be doing a coin flip bracket. So I know March Madness is coming soon. I already did my own bracket, but this time, I'm going to be deciding who wins each game by the flip of a coin. So the top team is going to be heads, and the bottom team is going to be tails. And let's see who wins. Alright, so let's start this bracket. So I'm gonna search flip a coin. It's flipping. So it's tails. So UMBC gets to win over UBA. Creighton versus Kansas State. Tails. Kansas State gets the win. Kentucky versus Davidson. Tails. Davidson gets the win. 3 tails in a row. Flip. Heads. So Arizona gets the win over Buffalo. Miami versus Loyola Chicago. Tails. So it's Loyola Chicago victory. Tennessee versus Wright State. Heads. So Tennessee gets the win. Nevada versus Texas. I almost said tennis. Tails. So Texas takes the dub, and now Cincinnati versus Georgia State. Heads. Cincinnati gets the win. Now let's go down here. So Xavier versus the winner of North Carolina Central and Texas Southern. Let's see who wins that matchup. Tails. So another 16 seed moving on against the 1 seed. Missouri versus Florida State. Tails. So Florida State wins that one. So another 16-9 matchup in the round of 32. Ohio State versus South Dakota State. Heads. OSU moves on. Gonzaga versus UNCG. I don't even know what that is, but okay. Tails. So UNCG gets the dub, the upset dub over Gonzaga. Houston over San Diego State. Tails. So San Diego State gets the upset. Michigan versus Montana. Tails. Montana gets a huge win, 14 seed over 3 seed. So Texas A&M versus Providence. Heads. So Texas A&M gets the win. And UNC versus Lipscomb. Oh, Lipscomb gets the 15 over 2 upset. Wow, many upsets thus far in this coin flip bracket. Villanova versus Radford. Heads. So Villanova moves on as the only 1 seed so far. Virginia Tech versus Alabama. Tails. Alabama upsets Virginia Tech, and they move on to the round of 32. West Virginia versus Murray State. Heads. So West Virginia gets the dub. Wichita State versus Marshall. Tails. Marshall gets the win over Wichita State. Florida versus St. Bonaventure. Heads. Florida gets the dub. Texas Tech versus SF Austin. Heads. So it's Texas Tech moving on. Arkansas versus Butler. Heads. So it's Arkansas going on to the round of 32. And then Purdue versus California State Fullerton. Heads. So Purdue moves on. So not as many upsets as in other regions of the bracket. Kansas versus Penn. Tails. Penn moves on. 16 seed over 1 seed. Seton Hall versus NC State. Tails. So NC State gets the upset. Clemson versus New Mexico State. Heads. So Clemson moves on. Auburn versus Charleston. Heads. So Auburn moves on to face Clemson. TCU versus the winner of Arizona State and Syracuse. So, TCU moves on. Michigan State versus Bucknell. Tails, Bucknell gets the upset over the Spartans. So now Rhode Island versus Oklahoma. Tails, Oklahoma gets the win over Rhode Island, and now Duke versus Iona. Heads, Duke moves on. Okay, so let's see, back up here, the round of 32. UMBC versus Kansas State. Heads, so UMBC goes on. Davidson versus Arizona. Heads, so Davidson moves on against Arizona. Loyola Chicago versus Tennessee. Heads again, so Loyola takes a dub. And now Texas versus Cincinnati. Heads, so now Texas moves on. So all double-digit seeds in the round of 16 so far. So the winner of North Carolina Central and Texas Southern versus Florida State. Let's see who will win this matchup. It's heads, so a 16th seed in the round of 16. OSU versus UNCG. Tails, so we have UNCG moving on. San Diego State versus Montana. Heads, so that means San Diego State is moving on to the round of 16. And now Texas A&M versus Lipscomb. Heads, so Texas A&M advances. Villanova versus Alabama. Tails, Alabama upsets Villanova. West Virginia versus Marshall. Tails, Marshall moves on against West Virginia to face Alabama. So Florida and Texas Tech. Tails, Texas Tech gets the victory, and now it's Arkansas versus Purdue. Heads, Arkansas upsets Purdue, and now we move on to the Midwest. Penn versus NC State. Heads, Penn, another 16 seed, moves on to the round of 16. Clemson versus Auburn. Heads, Clemson moves on against Auburn. TCU versus Bucknell. Heads, TCU gets the win over Bucknell, and now Oklahoma versus Duke. Who will win? It's heads. Oklahoma moves on. Now back up here, UMBC or Davidson. Flipping. Tails. Davidson gets the victory. Stephen Curry's college. Loyola Chicago versus Texas. Heads. So Loyola Chicago moves on to face Davidson. Now I'm going back down here. North Carolina Central and Texas Southern versus UNCG. Who will win this one? Tails. UNCG gets the dub. San Diego State versus Texas A&M. Tails. Texas A&M moves on to the Elite Eight. Penn State. Not Penn State. Penn versus Clemson. Tails. Clemson moves on. So TCU versus Oklahoma. Tails. Oklahoma moves on, and I think I forgot to do this part. Alabama versus Marshall. Heads. Alabama moves on. Now Texas Tech versus Arkansas. Heads. Texas Tech moves on to face Alabama. So now Davidson versus Loyola Chicago for the Final Four. Tails. Loyola Chicago is going to the Final Four. UNCG versus Texas A&M. It's tails. The Aggies move on to the Final Four to face Chicago. Alabama versus Texas Tech. It's heads. Alabama, the football college, moves on to the Final Four. Who will they face, Clemson or Oklahoma? Tails. They will face Oklahoma in a rivalry that should be in football. Loyola Chicago versus Texas A&M. Who will win it to go to the finale? Tails. It's Texas A&M. Now, will it be Alabama or Oklahoma facing them? It's heads. Texas A&M versus Alabama. Now, this is the final flip. Heads goes to Texas A&M, while tails goes to Alabama. What will it be? Drum roll. It is heads. Texas A&M wins the March Madness, and I'm gonna just do a random score: 82 to 76 or 75. The Aggies are gonna win it all. So that was really fun. I hope you guys enjoy that bracket simulation. So if you like that, please like and subscribe to my channel and get ready for more awesome content to come. Thank you, and see you next time.